Video games are great. If Leonardo da Vinci were still around, we wouldn't even know about him because he'd be sitting on his ass all day playing video games. And of course, I mean that in the best way. Video games are great! Sure, there's plenty of arguments for better tactical thinking, better hand-eye coordination, and the only truly safe environment for teabagging people. But the biggest thing video games have going for them is their ability to put a person into a first-person perspective story. Whether it's a story that's as simple as running around and shooting each other, or a story as complex as the likes of Final Fantasy, the person gets to experience the world from a far more integrated point of view than any other form of media. Now, there are some games that suck at this. Well, plenty actually, and I'm willing to bet that you've heard of some of them. Games where you have no actual say in what happens during the story, where the plot has more holes than Tommy Wiseau's magnum opus.
You gotta tear me apart, Lisa!
And often where you're supposed to be doing something and you don't even know what the fuck you're looking at. And then there are great games. Chrono Trigger, Mass Effect 2, and Portal, to name a few. Even if the story isn't too complex, if you feel like you're a part of it, if you feel like you're immersed in the experience, then you're probably playing a pretty good game. But these great games often go much further than simply bringing you into a story. They break down the walls of your worldview. They expand your mind. And I'm not just talking about mind-bending, drug-fueled games like Hotline Miami, although that is a great game. Beyond quantitative measures like graphics and gameplay, some games just stand out above the rest. Some are just perfect. Some are just real. I mean, Undertale's not perfect, but it's close. Join me as I venture into the heart of Undertale and pull out the ways it pokes at your brain so you'll never forget it. So it feels real. It really is remarkable. Hit it! To start, great games often have one thing in common: choice. For some, this is as simple as picking which gun is better. And even that is not as simple as you might think, as Borderlands has shown us over and over again. But for the good games, the really good ones, they make you make choices. And do you know how you tell when the choices you're making in a game really matter? When the choices you make really hit hard. They wear you out. They leave you wondering what if and if only, down to the point where you're not even sure of yourself anymore. Sometimes you're not even sure you're strong enough to keep making choices like that. In short, you run into a little thing psychologists call ego depletion. While it sounds like a colloquialism for what happens after an hour of online dating, it's actually a scientific term, meaning that the choices we make are limited by our ability to consciously make a certain amount of choices within a given period of time. It's a term in psychology that basically means that the more choices you have to make, say, in a single day, the more psychologically worn out a person becomes. Now, it's been proven to not be totally decisive. That is, you can improve your ability to make more or fewer decisions, but the concept is still there. And to combat this, you'll actually see a lot of really successful people avoiding making decisions that most of us make on a daily basis. Take, for example, our master and overlord Mark Zuckerberg. He's the CEO of Facebook, and he tends to wear the same thing, a lot. Kind of weird, isn't it? I mean, who else does that? But it makes sense. Our boy Mark has a lot of decisions, and having to choose different outfits every day would just be more work. Any decisions he makes could cost the company billions or drive an entire economy into the ground. So why clutter life up with choices as basic as what should I wear? Or as trivial as which Spice Girl is my favorite? Spoiler alert, no one cares. So what? What the hell does Mark Zuckerberg and ego depletion have to do with Undertale's ability to make you feel things? Well, that's the cool part. In Undertale, it's a test. You don't just choose from the beginning of the game that you'll be good or bad. You think you do as the player, but you're not just making that choice up front. You have to make that choice constantly, even when it's grueling. When you're playing through the story, you have to choose for every single battle how things will play out. You'll be tested to choose how you want to fight. Will you be a pacifist to a random monster? What about a monster trying to kill you? What about a monster with a family and children? What about a monster that's done horrible things, even to other monsters? How tightly do you hold to your own principles? You must decide for yourself, over and over and over again. Undertale gives one of the best stories in video games by essentially sacrificing the usual playstyle for willpower. The ability to sacrifice one's pleasures or vices in exchange for a greater purpose. Undertale's first step into creating a truly immersive experience is subverting the usual playstyle of kill or be killed with a moment-by-moment journey in crafting your identity. From the very start of the game, and persisting throughout it, you act out and even find out your own principles and limits as a player, as a person. Undertale also includes various aspects of modern life that most games just don't cover at all, or at least don't cover well. Let's face it, this whole game is about minority characters, for the most part. It takes place in a literal underworld of monsters, where, as we find out, they're people as much as anyone else. Yet from the start of the game, every character you meet is disadvantaged, tucked away from the outer world, and even considered downright evil by most humans. We don't really see much in the way of romance in Undertale, but without a doubt, the most noteworthy romantic relationship is that of Alphys and Undyne, two characters who are both women and in love, meaning that we're going multiple layers deep into the oppression points game. And yet, nothing about this is explicitly addressed within the story. It doesn't devolve into an SJW shit show. They're just two people in love. While in the human world we would be able to point out obvious prejudices about such a romance, or on the opposite side of things, we might hear how beautiful and incredible and amazing and powerful and insert more positive adjectives here it is. Undertale has multiple layers of social commentary, all rolled into a storyline thread that isn't critical to the game's mission, but is vital to immersing the player into a world that constantly requires re-evaluation, just as our own world does to each of us. Undertale doesn't beat you over the head with the message, yet it's left us with a deep admiration of the characters regardless of who they are or what they're into. And if that isn't a major step into immediately developing a world of characters that go beyond a single dimension, it's hard to say what is. Maybe it's Papyrus going for the threesome? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take! And if you're thinking,
yeah, well, you know, that's just like, your opinion, man.
Sorry, but it's not just my opinion. Not the threesome bit. I'm talking about multi-dimensional characters! Check around for Undertale fanfics or fan art and you'll find plenty of, well, you might find more than you bargained for. Point is, people are way more interested in Undertale characters than in characters of most video games. We've talked about this in previous videos. After all, how many games are out there where you can recognize the characters that are off to the side? You remember that little monster kid? The one that thinks Undyne is the greatest thing since whatever the monster is used for sliced bread? Sure you do, but tell me, what does he actually do? The kid doesn't have a big part in the story at all. In fact, it's partly because of his simplicity that people remember him. How many games can include a little kid idolizing one of your antagonists and still pull your heartstrings? Or what about Greater Dog? You know, the giant knight that is, as far as we know, literally a dog. What other games include such trivial characters? And harder still, how many games set the tone just right and get the dialogue just perfect to make you really care about those characters? Lastly, it's the little things that probably best highlight the concepts of choice and morality to the player. Most modern games are all about graphics. All about graphics. Take Breath of the Wild, for example. Another great game, but with a very different emphasis. Yes, I get it. Everyone wants to bang Link, and who wouldn't? He's gorgeous! Everything about the game is gorgeous, and that's part of the game's charm. It's just beautiful. And the same goes for a host of others. From Skyrim to BioShock 3, many modern titles are just so appealing to look at, and they emphasize it. Breath of the Wild and the modern Fallout games, and likely many more, have a hook for the player built into the game, where they build up some of the basic mechanics, and then at some point early on, they cut from a familiar starting zone to a wide open world, showing the vast openness of the game. It's a brilliant way to start a sandbox game, and that's great for those games, but Undertale doesn't go that route. Far from it. It's a beautiful game for sure, but its beauty is on the inside. Everything from the sets to the color schemes to the character designs, in and out of battle, are deliberate. Even the little Easter eggs, like the one where an amorphous blob tucks our main character into bed, are all made in such a way that they force the player to really evaluate their goals, choices, and how they're playing the game. In fact, most of the little beautiful moments are the ones you have to go and search for. You actually have to put time in to investigate the relationships of the characters. For instance, did you know that Sans and Goat Mom know each other? Like personally? Like really well? Did you know that sometimes they hang out together, separated by a wall, with just enough space to tell bad puns to each other, and in a dark underworld of sealed away monsters are still able to laugh at their own bad jokes? That's freaking beautiful, man. Undertale makes the player not only choose, but also emphasizes why they're choosing, and this helps the player focus on this instead of tropes used throughout most modern video games. And yes, the combat requires careful precision and acting in the moment, but it stops every round. And even at the start of every battle, lets the character decide how they want to approach the situation. Now, let's compare to a game that some of the more ardent fans will remember. Are you familiar with the game called Chrono Trigger? Almost universally considered one of the best games ever made, and probably older than most of the viewers on this channel, this game had it all. Character development, side quests galore, massive orgies, whoops, had another tab open, and of course, a friggin' flying time machine. Even as the impact of its graphics faded over the decades, well, sort of. It was designed by Akira Toriyama, after all, the guy who made Dragon Ball Z. Hence why everyone looks like a Dragon Ball character. The story and the way the game plays out have held up surprisingly well over time. And just like Undertale, you have to make choices in that game, and these choices have impact. If you open up a chest in the past, that chest's contents are lost to you in the future. If you were generous to a family in the past, you can be friendly with their descendants centuries later. If you start to grow a forest in the past, you can change an entire continent. And if you beat the final boss during different points in the story, you change the course of history itself. That's right. If you didn't catch that, and if you're not familiar with the story, one choice stands out above the rest. The choice to end the game itself. I mean actually fighting the final boss. In Chrono Trigger, you can fight the main boss almost at the start of the game. Seriously. And even throughout the rest of it, you can fight the main boss whenever you want to. You'll get your ass handed to you harder than Bill Gates fighting Mike Tyson in his prime, but it is your choice to do so if you wish. The main takeaway is that this game, Chrono Trigger, this wonderful classic, emphasizes choice, even over the progression of a pre-written format. You are the one who chooses and deals with the consequences. And oh, are there consequences, but that's a video for a different day. In Undertale, the game cuts out all the fluff that other titles rely on to draw you in. Undertale makes the player focus on the characters, their interactions, and what the protagonist's actions mean to the world of Undertale. You don't need cutting-edge graphics to make a great game. You just need the right graphics to make a great game. And you don't need a grandiose story about saving the world, or about fighting an alien race, or traveling through time. You need the right story for the game. One of the most famous quotes in the modern era, that with great power comes great responsibility, didn't even come from a famous philosopher. It came from a seemingly trivial character that didn't even make it that far in the story, yet it influences us all the same. A great game has a great story, but it doesn't need to be epic, and it's crucial to point out this difference. A great story has meaning, and it provides a learning experience. It has to make you question something important. It doesn't just tell a story to move the plot forward. It tells a story that changes you as a person. A great game makes you a better person. Undertale makes you challenge your own beliefs by throwing the decision to keep being a genocidal maniac or a touchy-feely pacifist at you over and over and over again as terrible things unfold before your eyes. It makes you question your values and ask what's really important. Does it really matter if you have the strongest weapons or best armor? Does it matter if you beat the game in under 3 hours if you wind up missing out on most of the story? For all the speedrunning and loot collecting games out there, if you played Undertale that way, you'd be missing out on a lot of the experience. And years from now, when it's all over, are you really gonna remember what weapons or armor you had? I won't. But I'll always remember the characters in the story. Even many of the little details, like the outrageous font of Papyrus. How do I know I'll remember such a trivial detail? Well, let's just say I've seen something like that before. Undertale gets you invested. When it's over, you're probably going to remember how you chose to play the game, just based on the memory of what the game was like. Was it a brutal, sadistic conquest? Was it a peaceful trek that brought together humans and monsters? Or was it all just about a kid trying to get home in a world full of monsters? It's your choice, you know? And with such rich, interesting characters, are you going to remember a couple of skeletons and a fish person trying to kill you? Or are you going to look back and remember a flamboyant brother and his lazy counterpart who are friends with a hardened she-fish monster knight with a heart of gold? Wrap it up and you've got a title that takes everything you thought you knew about video games, about life, and puts it to the test. Hard. One choice at a time. And that is why Undertale is a perfect game. Because it keeps it real. That's what I think. Do you agree that Undertale is a damn near perfect game in how it presents you with choices every single step of the way, just like real life? Or maybe you're impressed at how it presents us with a plethora of minority characters and an important message without turning into an SJW shit show. Let me know what you think Undertale did right or wrong. don't hold back. And if you don't want to comment about that, why not comment about what games you'd like us to cover next? Are there any upcoming titles you're dying to see us cover? Maybe old titles even? Let us know down below and we'll take your considerations to heart. I'm Grant, and I'll see you all in the next video, or about the next video. Bye everyone.